Astrobiologists have long understood that the search for life on other worlds begins with this world, with understanding the evolving relationship between life and its environment. No one understood this better than Dick Holland. Over the first 30 years of his career, mostly at Princeton University, Dick pioneered the study of Earth's atmosphere and oceans as evolving, coupled chemical systems. His approach was profound in its simplicity. As a theoretician, he did not pursue complex computational models. As an experimentalist, he was cautious about sophisticated techniques. As a field scientist, he did not organize large, complicated campaigns. Instead, Dick always sought the simplest path to the heart of even the most complex questions. Combining nearly encyclopedic knowledge with basic thermodynamic and mass balance concepts, Dick constructed logical arguments while others were often lost in equations or data. This doesn't necessarily prove anything, Dick so often said, before proceeding to lay out an argument so elegant, so informed, and so logical that it might as well have been a geometric proof. Dick taught his style and perspective to a generation of scholars by writing 2 books that quickly became classics. These masterpieces pulled together a tremendous amount of information and original thinking to sketch out a working model of the Earth system and its evolution. In this way, Dick organized and defined many of the key questions that drive the field even today. We haven't looked at Earth, or for life beyond, the same way since. After moving to Harvard, Dick proceeded to spend most of the next 25 years trying to answer one of those key questions. What caused the increase in atmospheric oxygen halfway through Earth history? A transition that Dick dubbed the Great Oxidation Event. Unfortunately, he departed us before he could answer this elusive question. Dick left it as an exercise for his many students. We carry his legacy into the future.
Dr. Robert A. Wharton died on Wednesday, September 19, 2012 in Rapid City, South Dakota. Bob had been diagnosed with cancer in 2011 and following treatment had been declared cancer-free. However, he died from complications resulting from the early 2012 treatments. Bob received his PhD in botany from Virginia Tech and his bachelor's and master's from Humboldt State University. In later years, he attended both the Harvard Institute of Educational Management and the Stanford Graduate School of Business Senior Executive Program. Bob's leadership and scientific career spanned several decades in the academic, federal service, and private sector. He was well known for his scientific investigations of the perennially ice-covered lakes of the McMurdo Dry Valleys and their use as analogs to Precambrian ecosystems on early Earth and as analogs for potential aquatic habitats on early Mars. In 1993, Bob was instrumental in organizing and leading the McMurdo Long-Term Ecological Research Project, a National Science Foundation-funded interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary study of the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems in the ice-free regions of the McMurdo Dry Valleys. Bob served as a visiting senior scientist at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., providing programmatic support for NASA's exobiology, controlled ecological life support system, and biospherics programs, and contributing to many studies aimed at supporting the human exploration of Mars, such as the Strategic Exploration Initiative and the Augustine Report. While at the Desert Research Institute, Bob served as Vice President for Research and as a research professor. Bob served as the Executive Officer for the National Science Foundation's Office of Polar Programs. Following his time at the National Science Foundation, Bob served as Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Idaho State University. In 2008, Bob became the 18th president of the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, where he quickly embarked on a bold path to increase the university's stature as a world-class technological university. Having participated in 11 expeditions to the Antarctic, Bob was the recipient of the United States Antarctic Service Medal and served on the National Research Council's Polar Research Board. He was a Fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the Royal Geographical Society, and the Explorers Club. Bob was a leader, an international polar research scientist, mentor, and above all, an explorer, with a passion for climbing who became a university president and who had fun along the way.
Carl Woese was the first scientist to map out the evolutionary history of all life on Earth. In so doing, he not only showed that all known life is related and descended from a common ancestral state, but he also overturned one of the major dogmas of biology with his discovery of the archaea, the third domain of life. Because of Woese's work, it is now widely agreed that there are 3, not 2, primary divisions of life: the eukarya, bacteria, and archaea. This classification scheme represents one of the 20th century's landmark achievements in science and has fundamentally changed our understanding of evolutionary biology. By basing his classification on the sequences of molecules involved in the cell's earliest machinery for expressing genes, rather than purely physiological characteristics, Woese opened up a new way to quantify evolution, a new window on the origin of life, and a scientifically rigorous way to identify and classify all organisms. This has been especially transformative in the case of microbes, the vast majority of which cannot be cultured, but which represent the principal components of the Earth's biosphere. Woese's motivation to initiate his sequencing project was to understand the very earliest phases of life, in an attempt to understand how the complexity of living systems evolved from much earlier and simpler states. His abiding interest was the evolutionary process itself, and he personally regarded the discovery of the archaea as a spin-off, albeit one with incredibly important ramifications that are only now being fully understood. Woese's work was an early forerunner of today's genomic biology, with many extensions that are revolutionizing microbiology, ecology, and even the health sciences. His many accolades include the 2003 Crafoord Prize for Biosciences, awarded by the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, the Leeuwenhoek Medal, the US National Medal of Science, and membership of the National Academy of Sciences. His contributions to astrobiology live on in his experimental discoveries, his theoretical work on the genetic code, and his vision of the evolutionary process in action.
David McKay passed away on February 19, 2013 at age 76, ending a distinguished career in lunar science, meteoritics, and astrobiology. He played key roles in NASA's lunar exploration and astrobiology programs, understanding the lunar regolith and the processes operating in the near-lunar environment, developing ideas for utilization of planetary resources, examination of Martian meteorites for potential biogenic signatures, and the formation of NASA's astrobiology program. At the time of his death, he was chief scientist for astrobiology and planetary science and exploration at NASA's Johnson Space Center, Houston, Texas. He has been described as a pioneer among pioneers in the space program. David joined NASA's Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston in June 1965 to train astronauts to collect rocks on the Moon. He was the only geologist present in mission control during the lunar landing in July 1969. To many in the scientific community, David is best known as the lead author of the 1996 science paper that presented evidence for ancient Martian life in the Allen Hills 84001 meteorite. The publication of the science paper created an explosion of excitement and criticism in equal measure. The excitement surrounding the possibility that Mars may have harbored ancient life led spacefaring nations of the world to reignite their Mars exploration programs. The establishment of the NASA Astrobiology Institute in 1998 was also in part a consequence of David's pioneering work on ALH 84001. David was married to Mary Fay for more than 40 years and was the father of 3 girls, Amy, Susie, and Jill. He was delighted to have 3 grandchildren. Dave was quiet and unassuming, had a sharp, humorous wit, and a genteel manner. His love of science inspired 2 of his daughters to complete their PhDs. He enjoyed traveling, particularly to Japan. We miss you and thank you, David, for your friendship and guidance over these many years. You have helped point the way to the Moon and to Mars.
Planetary science and exploration were Tom's lifelong passions. Already at the tender age of 7, Tom's interest in things extraterrestrial was kindled by his discovery of a painting of a Martian landscape in his elementary school. Before the age of Sputnik, Tom was already busy building rockets with his family members. He would go on to study at the University of South Florida and Case Western Reserve University. In 1976, he joined the faculty in the Department of Physics at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, where he would teach astronomy to over 10,000 undergraduate students over the next 30 years. Combining his love of astronomy with interest in chemistry and geology, he explored space from his laboratory, studying the properties of stardust, meteorites, and geological samples, including what may be microfossils from the beginning of life on Earth. His diverse scientific portfolio also included topics ranging from stellar magnetic fields to the origin of the KT events that wiped out the dinosaurs, to the composition of interstellar dust and the mineralogy and astrobiology of the surface of Mars. He was very generous with his time in educating the public and was often seen, heard, or read on local TV, radio, and newspapers. Tom was nothing if not passionate, and he was especially so for planetary exploration. The highlight of his career was when he joined the Mars Exploration Rover team. He was on hand to send the control commands to the rover Spirit when it reached out its robotic arm to study the rock Adirondack. And thereby, Tom fulfilled his childhood dream of touching another world. The MER team later honored Tom by naming a Martian rock formation, Dowiak Ridge, as a memorial to his contributions.
John Billingham was born in the United Kingdom and began his medical career in London in 1954. Thereafter, he served in the Royal Air Force until 1963, when he accepted a position as the head of environmental physiology at NASA's Manned Spaceflight Center in Houston, emigrating with his wife Margaret, later an eminent physician and pathologist in her own right. In 1965, he became chief of the biotechnology division at NASA Ames, where he became familiar with the center's work in exobiology, leading to a collaboration with Barney Oliver of Hewlett-Packard to co-direct the 1971 summer study to assess what would be required to mount a realistic effort aimed at detecting the existence of extraterrestrial intelligent life. Using Project Cyclops as a jumping-off point, JB, as his friends knew him, became a lifelong advocate for SETI and the people who made it all possible, both formally and informally. He was a leader in a community of creative and dedicated people who shared a thirst for knowledge of life beyond Earth, and was proud to be known by the company he kept as a result. Surely he garnered official recognition for his efforts along the way, but unofficial recognition came in many satisfactory forms as well. JB kept distinguished company at work, but none more distinguished than at home. The talented and dedicated people that come from foreign lands to participate in a vision of space exploration is a lesson that NASA and the U.S. government should never forget. That John Billingham was among them, and that he shared in a vision of an infinite future in a universe operating at the speed of light, was and is to our great benefit.
𝐂𝐭𝐸ℎ was best known for his studies of the formation of organic solids in the atmosphere of Titan. In a seminal paper in Icarus, 𝐂𝐸ℎ, together with Carl Sagan and others, determined the optical properties of solid organic material produced under simulated Titan conditions. They referred to the solid material as tholin. 𝐂𝐸ℎ and his team measured the indices of refraction of Titan tholin over a very broad range of wavelengths, from the microwave to the X-ray. Modelers, like me, quickly found that the optical properties could be used to determine the reflectance of the atmosphere, and calculations made with these laboratory values agreed well with telescopic and spacecraft observations of Titan. This agreement between the laboratory results and the modeling
was the basis for the growing acceptance of organic solids as the source of the haze on Titan. 𝐂𝐬𝐬 also worked on organic production in other settings, including the atmospheres of the giant planets and the surfaces of icy and rocky moons. 𝐂𝐬𝐬 also worked in the field of nanotechnology, producing in his laboratory samples of carbon nanotubes for analysis and experiments by himself and others. 𝐂𝐻𝐿 𝐂𝐬𝐬 was born in Varanasi, India. 𝐂𝐬𝐬 earned his undergraduate degrees at Banaras Hindu University. He came to the U.S. and completed his doctorate in physics from Syracuse University. His formative work would be done with Carl Sagan at Cornell University over a 30-year span beginning in the 1960s. In 1996, 𝐂𝐻𝐿 contacted me and inquired about the possibility of moving to NASA Ames. I, of course, encouraged him, and he came and established a laboratory here, which he operated until his death in August 2013. It was a pleasure to work with 𝐂𝐻𝐿. He was enthusiastic about science and listened carefully to everyone, from students to senior scientists, and he listened to what they said and considered it equally, regardless of the source. He's missed.
Growing up in Norman, Oklahoma, Tom Pearson studied aerospace engineering, business, and management at the University of Oklahoma. In the 1980s, as a grants administrator at San Francisco State University, Tom helped Professor Charles Seeger obtain research funds for a new SETI project at NASA's Ames Research Center. Intrigued, Tom proposed a more efficient way to organize NASA's SETI program through a nonprofit, and the SETI Institute became a reality. In 1984, Tom Pearson began his long career as the Institute's Chief Executive Officer. While founded to conduct SETI searches, the Institute soon broadened its mandate to encompass all aspects of understanding the nature and prevalence of life beyond Earth. Though not a scientist, Tom was as fervent about the Institute's varied research agenda as any of its investigators. He would exuberantly convey the excitement of SETI and astrobiology at any gathering, professional or amateur, formal or casual. His management style was characterized by a fierce loyalty to the Institute's employees and an easy willingness to let them try new ideas. During his tenure, Tom led more than $250 million of federally funded research and raised more than $90 million in private funding for SETI research. For distinguished service to NASA and the scientific community, and for supporting basic research and education dealing with life in the universe, he was honored with NASA's Distinguished Public Service Medal. Tom was a leader and a friend to many. He was an athlete and a dedicated family man who played competitive golf in college, loved baseball and football, and shared his passion for sports with his son Tommy, daughter Elizabeth, and wife Elise. Tom is remembered as enthusiastic, generous, and fair. He dedicated himself and his career to what he called the most profound search in human history, to know our beginnings and our place among the stars. Tom is deeply missed.
Colin pioneered many studies on meteorites that advanced our understanding of how the solar system formed and the geological and geochemical evolution of planetary bodies. Colin was always a determined person, and after moving to the Open University, where he made Professor of Planetary Sciences in 1991, he rapidly built up expertise not just in the scientific study of meteoritics, but also in instrumentation for examining organics on other planetary bodies such as mass spectrometry. These instruments would eventually fly to other planets and comets. With his signature sideburns, his West Country accent and flair, Colin was always a formidable and influential force in science. Colin's largest-scale contribution to astrobiology was the implementation of the Beagle 2 lander, a lander designed to search for organics on Mars, measure their isotopic composition, and investigate the geology of the red planet. Beagle 2, which was launched with the European Mars Express mission, is thought to have successfully touched down on Mars, but it never made contact. Colin's enthusiastic personality and love of science did more than launch a spaceship. He was also instrumental in inspiring many people to go into science and in encouraging astrobiology and related areas of activity in the UK. The Beagle 2 mission was highly influential in improving public understanding of space missions, planetary science, and science in general in the UK, and did much to bring planetary sciences into the forefront of science.
The field of geomicrobiology lost a treasured and vibrant leader, champion, and friend on October 26, 2014, with the passing of Katrina Edwards. Arguably the first person to attain a PhD in the field of geomicrobiology in 1999 from the University of Wisconsin, Katrina was well known for her trailblazing abilities and attitude. Going straight from her PhD to the rank of assistant scientist at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution was remarkable enough, made more so by the fact that she had no oceanography experience at the time. Not one to be deterred by such challenges, Katrina quickly established herself as a major player in deep-sea research at hydrothermal vents, studying how microbes interact with ocean crust. She did this while simultaneously growing her family to include 3 young girls. Transitioning to dual professorships in biological and earth sciences at the University of Southern California in 2006, Katrina went on to establish a $25 million Science and Technology Center devoted to deep biosphere research in 2010, and to be co-chief of an international ocean drilling expedition in 2011. Katrina was recognized for her contributions to scientific discovery with many awards, including the A.G. Huntsman Award for Excellence in Marine Science in 2012. Katrina will be remembered fondly by her close colleagues by her "Get Shit Done" motto, always said with a playful smile and laugh, and her spirit will live on in the next generation of intraterrestrial researchers hunting for microbes that rust the crust.
Martin Brazier was a leading paleobiologist from Oxford University, well known internationally for contributing to debates that influenced our understanding of the early biosphere at key points in Earth's history. He was a recipient of the Geological Society of London's prestigious Lyell Award. During a more than 45-year career, Martin covered the entire geological timescale in all continents except Antarctica. For the last 15 years, he focused on the origins of early life during the Archean and the subsequent Boring Billion of the Proterozoic. Martin relished collaborating and contributing as a member of the scientific community that teased out of rocks the complex story of life. He recognized early on the necessity of multidisciplinarity in addressing questions raised through field mapping, microbiology, and geochemical analysis. He was never afraid to enlist the help of other experts. He frequently referred to the Archean early biosphere studies as his most satisfying research project, and his approach yielded a high scientific return in publications, the chronology of which reveal his changing position on the timing of the first life on planet Earth. Martin was also an accomplished piano player, enjoying jazz, and had the practical skills to restore and build his own keyboard. In his later years, he discovered an interest in historical microscopes and began assembling an impressive collection, including one that had belonged to the American micropaleontologist Joseph Cushman. A new generation of students can appreciate Martin's ability for storytelling through his popular science books, Darwin's Lost World and Secret Chambers, that will bring the Precambrian to life for a new and diverse audience. Martin tragically died in a car accident not far from his home in Insham, Oxfordshire, on the 16th of December, 2014. Thoughts and sympathy go out to his wife Cecilia, who is thankfully recovering from her injuries sustained in the accident, children Matthew, Alexander, and Zoe, and 2 grandchildren. Fortunately, he has left us with a rich and wide-ranging scientific legacy.
Alberto was a polar researcher who spent many summers on the Greenland ice sheet and Antarctica. Alberto was a professor at Arizona State University and ran the school's Extreme Environments Robotic and Instrumentation Laboratory. Alberto was an investigation scientist for instruments on the Curiosity rover and Mars Odyssey orbiter. But for me, Alberto was just my crazy friend. Alberto and I first met when we both started working for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Alberto and I became colleagues, friends, and eventually roommates. Alberto was a meticulous, crazy fun guy who changed my life. Alberto loved leadership books. Alberto introduced me to the books First Things First and How to Be a Lifelong Learner. Alberto always had big plans, and he was able to accomplish those plans by putting first things first. Alberto was always an explorer. While a graduate student at USC, his 10 by 8 foot home, cubicle, studying, living space lab room was Spartan-like and had a world map on the wall. And even though he was only 25 years old, Alberto had stick pins all over Asia and Europe, the Middle East, North and South America on that world map. I do not remember any marks in Africa or Antarctica, but those flags would soon be planted. Alberto has always been eager to meet new people, explore new lands, and imagine new ideas. One of his not-so-great ideas was taking in a dog named Genghis. He loved Genghis, even when Genghis ripped up all the carpet in our living room. His most infamous idea was to drop rubber ducks into a natural drain hole on the Greenland ice sheet to determine if meltwater from the surface reached the sea. His best idea by far was to marry his wife Mary and create 3 beautiful, smart, wonderful children, Indra, Isis, and Athena. Alberto was passionate in all that he did. When Alberto was training for a running race or a triathlon, everything in the refrigerator turned into fat-free. Fat-free butter, fat-free milk, fat-free salad dressing, fat-free wine, fat-free lollipops, fat-free popsicles. Alberto's smile opened up lots of doors for him, and his good humor and passion for life kept those doors open because so much good was flowing through. Every time I visited Alberto with Mary and Indra and Isis and Athena, I saw such a magnified outpouring of love. I am sad and I miss you, my brother. I will never forget your kindness, your ideas, and your smile. Namaste.